I never anticipated encountering. It was merely another occurrence. The day following school, I anticipated having. I found myself alone in the house, but what I encountered was unexpected. Behind my stepmother Olivia, the slightly open door rendered me stunned, ensnared in an unexpectedly personal. The moment my entire universe transformed abruptly. What transpired subsequently altered everything. Between us exists something neither of us could never retract as I recount the entirety. Transpired into an unforgettable night. I like to inform you that what occurred was voluntary. It may seem incredible, however it is the real truth. Had recently returned home from school. Day feeling fatigued from hours of courses and the house was unsettlingly silent during social interactions. Upon my entrance, I was accompanied solely by a gentle murmur. The refrigerator disrupted the silence. Golden rays of late afternoon sunlight extended across the hardwood flooring, imparting a serene tranquility to all. Atmosphere I was certain I was. Solitarily, I hurled my burdensome rucksack upon. The sofa intends to procure a snack and relax for a moment before others arrive. Upon returning home, I proceeded into the kitchen. Something halted my progress. Audible yet subdued. I froze, uncertain of my next action. It was perceived as gentle, nearly like to a subdued murmur or whisper, nevertheless there existed. There is an element of distinction associated with it. Intimate and personal, which caused a tactile response on my skin. Experience a tingling sensation with. In the face of uncertainty, I paid closer attention, attempting to ascertain the source. Although it was not loud, there was an aspect that captivated me. Gradually and carefully, I descended the hallway was silent beneath my footsteps. Floor as I neared the origin of the. Upon arriving at Olivia's room, I encountered noise. Observed her door was slightly ajar, sufficient for me to perceive the boundary of a bed and a fragment of the room. Furthermore, I was aware that I ought not to observe everything. The essence of my being compelled me to turn around and depart, yet something continued to draw me back. Me towards that door, an insatiable curiosity consuming me before I could. I restrained myself from peering through the. It was at that moment I encountered my stepmother. Olivia was reclining on the bed, her back on the surface, slightly arched, eyes closed in contemplation, can solely be characterized as unadulterated delight. For an extended duration, I was rendered speechless. I remained motionless, my breath suspended, an obstruction in my throat as I observed her. My mind raced to comprehend what I was experiencing. Observing her self-stimulation, digits progressing gradually and methodically, as gentle groans emanated from her lips, the sight provoked a profound jolt within me. And strange, I sensed my pulse accelerate, my heart thundering in my chest as a surge of heat enveloped. I knew I should leave and return, depart silently and feign ignorance of my observation. I was unable to move, immobilized, my gaze fixed upon her. Each minor movement she executed elicited a. Olivia was stunning, resonating within me, exceedingly gorgeous at that moment. Her body moved with ease, innate elegance just as I was ready to. I compelled myself to avert my gaze as she opened her. I worried momentarily, convinced I was apprehended, yet instead of responding with, in shock or rage, she merely gazed at me. The glance was gentle, nearly inviting, neither surprise nor embarrassment, merely a languid, smoldering gaze that captivated my skin tingles and my breath halts in my. Her voice was low when she spoke, emanating from her throat. She warmly invited me inside. At that point, I believed I must have fabricated it. However, when I remained stationary, she grinned. Identical welcoming smile and reiterated the additional invitation. My legs appeared to move resolutely on their own, gently transporting me into the room. My heart raced more intensely with each step I took. experienced an unusual mix of trepidation and exhilaration enveloping me when I, ultimately positioned behind the bed, gazing below at. I could sense the tension between us, dense and tangible in the atmosphere. Olivia. Initially, she remained silent, still observing me with their profound, blazing eyes that appeared to perceive directly. I swallowed hard, attempting to. I formed words, yet nothing emerged from my mouth. Experienced desiccation and my thinking were disordered. She appeared unbothered by my silence. She extended her hand to grasp mine. Her touch was gentle yet forceful. She used force to draw me closer. My heart was beating as I drew nearer. Experienced a sensation of apprehension, constriction in my abdomen, although there was an additional sensation that was experienced, similar to enthusiasm, expectation as I positioned myself adjacent to her. Olivia did not release her grip on the side of the bed. Rather of taking my hand, she directed it gradually, along her physique over the gentle contour of her. The warmth of her skin emanated. Via my breath was seized as I felt it with my fingertips. Her fingers over mine guiding me slowly. Intentional moves I could perceive her. The pulse beneath her skin, the delicate elevation, the rise and fall of her chest as she inhaled. She murmured to me, her voice barely audible, perceptible yet imbued with tenderness, that caused my heart to ache. She instructed me not to. I hesitated to relax and nodded. Yet I was uncertain if I was more. Her fingers were either nervous or enthusiastic, interwoven with my own, directing me, instructing me as we relocated together. Ideal. Each touch elicited a jolt of unison. Electricity coursed through me, and I could perceive the bond between us intensifying with each passing second. It was not merely physically, it was something beyond the ordinary, close and, the moment elongated across the world. External elements diminishing till there remained only the two of us remain, disclosing something that appeared highly prohibited. And yet the appropriate moment appeared to decelerate. Every inhalation and caress enduring eternally as the tension between us escalated to a. Olivia drew me nearer. Her body in contact with mine, I could perceive the warmth of her flesh. Her breath grazed my neck, and her lips brushed against me, gently against my ear as she murmured. Once more, her voice was gentle and airy, requested my presence, her tone imbued with a subtle urgency that compelled my heart raced. She wished for my stay, could not have departed even if I desired to. The barrier between us was excessively strong. The link was profound. We were inseparably bound. This moment and nothing else mattered to me. Inclined my lips only millimeters from hers, perceiving the warmth of her breath upon my. Time appeared to halt throughout the skin. The world suspended in anticipation while we lingered, on the brink of an unknown entity for both of us. My refute, the atmosphere between us was laden with expectation, a form of tension that elicited a tremor along my spine. Then, just as I believed the situation would overwhelm, Olivia leaned in, her lips caressed gently, counter to mine, generating a shockwave of. Initially, it was a lovely warmth permeating through me, provisional as though we were evaluating the waterways, but subsequently intensified. Her lips pressed more firmly against my own. The hand continues to guide and demonstrate what she desired and what we both sought. The kiss was languid and gentle, imbued with a type of passion that was dual. It felt both overwhelming and gentle. All that we had been suppressing was expressing every touch in that moment. Each breath and heartbeat synchronizes, united as we ultimately acquiesced to the escalating tension between. We remained in that position for what seemed like an eternity, akin to an eternity encapsulated within each. The world beyond is neglected. I sensed Olivia's body quivering, gently opposed to mine, the muted sound of her respiration permeating the space between us. Ultimately, she retracted her position slightly. her forehead pressed against mine, her eyes, partially closed as she regained her breath, perceived the slightest indication of a smile. Over her lips, a semblance of satisfaction that she muttered, inquiring, which caused my heart to swell. If I was fine, her voice was scarcely audible, perceptible yet imbued with tenderness, that instilled a sense of safety and caring in me. Nodded, incapable of articulating words. She smiled once more, her fingertips grazing gently through my hair as she inclined towards me. Once again her lips grazed gently against my cheek prior to retracting. The room was entirely filled with a soothingly tranquilized the previously existing tension. What had existed has now been supplanted by a gentle luminescent satisfaction shared by neither of us. We conversed for an extended duration while remaining aided. Collectively, our respiration gradually reverts to the warmth between us eventually normalizes, cooling to a softer state. Intimately, Olivia rested her head on my. I wrapped my arm around the shoulder. We sat in close proximity with her being drawn nearer. The waning light of the afternoon, subdued acoustics of the dwelling enveloping us. Regardless of what transpired between us, it was novel, delicate, and entirely unforeseen. At that time, nothing mattered. What was significant was our presence together, distributing something that seemed unattainable, distinctive quality that transcended any item that either of us may possess. Envisioned, and for the present that was sufficient as we remained seated in silence. The connection between us seems to deepen with each passing instant. The sunshine, streaming through the window, was commencing to diminish, emitting a gentle amber hue. Illuminate the room while everything within remains. Experienced vitality and energy. The burden of the recent occurrence lingered in the atmosphere, and although neither of us articulated it, it seemed as if we were both anticipating, held in this unresolved tension. To quite comprehend, I could sense Olivia's. The body relaxes somewhat against mine, yet the manner in which she nestled closer, her hand delicately. The weight on my thigh indicated that what had commenced between them was not concluded. Still, my heart continued to race in my chest, a peculiar mix of exhilaration and anxiety surging within me at all times. A portion of my consciousness was acutely attuned to her. The warmth of her gentle breaths, her skin in contact with mine, the delicate fragrance of her fragrance still persisting in the. She slightly tilted her head, lips grazing the side of my. The neck induces tremors along my spine. The touch was subtle, almost imperceptible, yet it sparked a spark within me that ignited into a gradual combustion. I briefly shut my eyes, allowing the sensation to envelop me, prior to orienting my head to gaze at her. Her gaze intersected with mine, and there was a distinct change in her eyes now, something more sinister. The tenderness previously experienced was extreme, remained present, however beneath it, I discerned a. Olivia did not share the hunger that paralleled my own. Utter a syllable, nevertheless the manner of her fingers, subtly delineated circles on my calf, indicated to me all the information I required. I acquired, reacquiring her lips once more, although on this occasion there was neither reluctance nor tentativeness. The kiss was an examination of limits, more profound and pressing, as if the necessity we possessed. Both had ultimately ceased to restrain themselves. Liberated, her hands ascended my chest, her fingers grasping the cloth of my shirt. As she drew me nearer, I could perceive her body reacting to mine, delicate pressure of her contours against me, overwhelming my thoughts on. This moment felt illicit, however that merely appeared to enhance it. The heady reality that she was my stepmother, an individual who has consistently been only out of reach, established the link. Our relationship is increasingly perilous. Was unable to restrain my want for more, due to the necessity of proximity to her. Olivia's hands shifted to the rear of my. Her neck is pulling me down with her as she Reclined on the bed, her body lay back against the cushions as she directed me. I succumbed to the attraction between us with her. Very compelling, I soon found myself hovering. My arms were bracing me as I gazed over her. Gazing down at her, my breath came in quick gasps. Shallow gasps caused her chest to rise and fall. Swiftly, her gaze fixed on me in that. The time, the intensity between us was. She extended her fingers palpably, softly outlining the contour of my jaw prior to. As I was pulled down again, our lips converged. Another fervent kiss, this time accompanied by her hands, wandered unrestrained, investigating my back and shoulders, drawing me in even farther until no room remained between. The warmth emanating from Olivia's body was overpowering. I could perceive her heartbeat. The rhythm is racing at the same speed as mine. With it pounding against my chest, I proceeded. My fingers glided down her side, sensing the softness, contour of her waist beneath my fingers. Upon reaching the hem of her shirt, I paused momentarily, uncertain if she was crossing a boundary, yet she did not retract. She arched her back, distancing herself, subtly urging physical contact with her body, was replying to my inquiry in a manner that clearly expressed her desires regarding my. The finger glided under the material, and as I glided my hand along the sleek, I felt the warmth of her flesh as I heard her gentle gasp, a noise that elicited a renewed surge of warmth, rushing through my olive hands, entangled, grasping my hair, drawing me nearer as she intensified the kiss as her lips separated, subtly allowing me to experience her flavor. Was exhilarating, and I could perceive the strain in her physique as she maneuvered. Her every touch beneath me was imbued with an urgency that rendered it impossible to contemplate nothing other than. We were utterly disoriented in one another, the existing barriers between us decaying as we succumbed to the temptation that had been percolating beneath the surface remained unyielding, rendering further progress impossible. Support, the significance of that realization, lingered in the atmosphere, yet neither of us appeared to care. All that was significant was this. The instant this link becomes evident, the attraction that had united us, Olivia's hands were omnipresent, delineating the contours of my shoulders, arms, and chest, as though she was insatiable, and I sensed the identical. The more I touched her, the more I desired her, and the fervor of the entire experience was nearly overwhelming. It felt as though we, having been restraining oneself for an extended period, now that the floodgates have been opened, there was no halting the tide that engulfed us. She softly groaned against my presence, her fingers constricting in my hair. When she crushed her form against mine, the music prompted a renewed wave of desire. I was unable to satiate my desire for her. Her flavor, her aroma, the sensation of her. Every aspect of my being was ablaze beneath me. I realized that there was no possibility of retreat. Currently, not subsequently. I retracted this momentarily, gaze seeking hers as though it were essential. Ensure her continued presence in this matter. Retaining the same desire as I once did, however. Her gaze conveyed everything. I required assurance of unwavering certainty. There are no second thoughts, only the same burning hunger that persisted from the outset, compelling us onward. Silently, Olivia extended her hand towards me. Once more, her fingers curved forward, of my shirt, tugging me down to her with an almost imploring softness. With eagerness, as our lips connected once again, I experienced total surrender to. The instant I relinquished all uncertainty, succumbed to dread, and yielded to the need that has been developing between us since the instant I entered that room. The tension between us was electrifying. Every touch, every kiss propelled. Her body moved us closer to the precipice, her hands traversing over mine, skin as like she were insatiable. The sound of her desperate gasps permeated the The room is driving me to distraction with. We are currently entangled with one another. Entirely engulfed by the fervor that had seized us, there was no. As I turned back, I sensed her fingers trailing behind. Her hand glided down my chest, eliciting shivers. When she drew me nearer, her body curved beneath mine as though soliciting additional provisions, which I provided to her. Each caress, each kiss, each murmur. Language immersing us further into the experience. Only the two of us remained, immersed in a self-constructed reality. The intensity of the situation was nearly overwhelming. To endure the tension that has developed between us. An intense climax as we balanced precariously. Of a deeper essence, something more substantial, yet we were not prepared to relinquish just yet. Remained suspended on the verge, relishing each caress and every kiss as the intensity between us escalated continuously until it seemed as though we were on the verge of detonation due to the absolute intensity of. I could sense Olivia quaking beneath. Her breath was short and ragged, gasped as she clutched to my body, pushed against mine in a manner that rendered. My head spun, and I was aware that she sensed it. The same intolerable stress, that identical urgent necessity for. We had not yet reached the release. We lingered on the brink, prolonging the moment, the instant permitting the expectation accumulate till it was nearly excessive to. The room was filled with sounds of our gasping groans and our murmured describes the subdued urgency of our actions. When we succumbed to the fervor that has been festering between us for an extended period. This moment and this connection were impeccable. Between us, and as I embraced her closely, our bodies moving in perfect harmony. Harmony, I understood that nothing will ever remain unchanged after we had traversed a line ventured into prohibited territory. Something perilous, yet I was indifferent, because at that point when we lingered on the brink of something greater, what mattered was Olivia, her touch, her kiss, the sensation of her beneath me as we succumbed, ourselves within one another, entirely, and as we ultimately relinquish, yielding to the overwhelming intensity. I saw that this was merely the commencement. Regardless of what ensued or the subsequent ramifications, we may encounter challenges. I was prepared to confront them, with her as we were in that moment, embraced one another in the diminishing light. At the end of the day, I realized that everything had transpired, transformed, and I would not prefer it differently. Manner corresponding to the fervor of our ardor. As the situation began to diminish, Olivia and I reclined. Our breaths eventually became intertwined. The room returned to silence. Subsequently preserved the gentle whisper of linens. As we moved nearer to one another, outside, the final rays of sunlight had diminished, leaving us in the subdued illumination of. During twilight, I observed her intently. As she absorbed every detail, the blush, the gentle luster of her cheekbones and the sweet gleam of her eyes, the manner in which her hair cascaded over the pillow. A portion of me remained incredulous about what had recently occurred, yet the warmth of her, the contact of bodies was unmistakable. I muttered, almost in fear, "What now?" to disrupt the stillness that had ensued. Olivia brushed her fingertips along us. My jawline, accompanied by a subtle smile. "Lips," she murmured gently. "We will resolve it." We understood that this endeavor would not be straightforward. There were numerous potential complications, implications, but as we reclined there, enveloped in one another's embrace, those apprehensions diminished. Far and insignificant, we conversed for hours that night, our voices subdued, and close in the obscurity we exchanged our anxieties, our hopes, It was peculiar how something was desired that ought to have seemed profoundly inappropriate instead seemed like the most instinctive action. Globally, during the forthcoming weeks, we established into a new regimen we were cautious of. During the presence of others, we upheld our customary stepmother procedures. and relationship, yet in private instances. Covert looks and discreet touches suggested. At our confidential location, it was not consistently seamless. During sailing, there were instances of guilt, anxiety at the uncertainty of our actions, significant error during our initial encounter with my father's key in the lock subsequent to our arrival. We both nearly sprang out together. Skins. Nevertheless, we have acquired the ability to be discreet. Treasure our intimate moments devoid of, allowing them to overflow into our public sphere. Resides one evening approximately a month subsequent to that. On the initial afternoon, Olivia and I were reclining on the sofa while seeing a film. Father was frequently working late. As the titles concluded, Olivia turned to face me. Her expression was serious. We need to converse. Concerning the future, she articulated her perspective. Calm yet resolute, my heart raced. What do you mean by her taking my hand? Her thumb tracing circles on my. Conceal this matter between us. It is not tangible for me, at least. Experienced a surge of relief envelop me. Stated that it transcends the physical for me. Either I believe I am falling in love. Accompanying you, Olivia. The smile that illuminated her visage was. She leaned in and kissed me, breathtakingly. Gently, I believe I am developing romantic feelings for. She muttered against my lips. You too. However, that acknowledgement brought forth a new array. Various obstacles we both saw that the revelation of the relationship would result in anguish and bewilderment for individuals in our vicinity. The burden of concealing this secret for my father exerted significant pressure on both of us. As time progressed, our relationship merely strengthened. We acquired the ability to communicate, lacking the vocabulary to comprehend one another. Needs and aspirations at a level I had never previously encountered. It was exhilarating, simultaneously awe-inspiring and frightening. Near misses, such as the occasion involving my closest companion, arrived unexpectedly and almost interrupted us in a compromising situation. The position or the evening my father returned home. We had to hastily prepare due to the early timing. It appears we were merely engaging in a casual manner. Each close call during the conversation prompted us. Increased caution, although it also resulted in us. Inquire if we can maintain this. The prolonged stress of continual observing our surroundings, ARS was exacting a toll on one especially intimate. The call precipitated our initial significant conflict. Tensions were elevated and we both articulated. Unintended remarks prompted my abrupt departure. Navigating aimlessly during the night. Throughout the town, my thoughts are a tumultuous storm, ambiguity and in pain, although with the dawn I discovered myself. Upon returning to our porch, Olivia unlocked the door before I could even wrap her gaze. Eyes ringed in crimson from a night devoid of slumber. Silently, we descended into one another's, each of us apologizing via our arms. Tears that struggle as intensely as the anguish endured fortified us as we recognized that what we possessed was worth the struggle. We commenced increased communication regarding protection, genuinely contemplating our destiny and its implications may appear if we choose to create. We recognized that this relationship is permanent. It would not be facile. There would be astonishment, disappointment, perhaps even anger from those nearest to us, yet as we remained seated in together we envisioned and strategized, I experienced a sense of hope I had never encountered. Months elapsed, and our connection only. As our understanding deepened, we became proficient in the art of living. Our dual existence necessitates responsible actions. Affectionate stepmother in public, fervent. Intimate partners in secrecy, however we were both aware of this. Was unable to endure. Eternally as our first anniversary. 1 year has elapsed since that dreadful event. In the afternoon I encountered Olivia. Resolved it was time to cease. Evading the moment to confront the repercussions of decisions, we dedicated weeks to strategizing how to disseminate the information while tormenting over every detail. Specifics and during a tranquil Sunday afternoon. With quaking hands and rapid hearts, we convened with my father to inform him of the veracity. The ensuing chat was one. Among the most challenging periods in my life there were tears, cries, times of profound quiet. As I grasped Olivia's hand firmly in, I was aware that we were making the correct decision. The journey ahead would be challenging, needed to reconstruct bridges to restore trust. However, as we confronted the future collectively, I was unable to refrain from reflecting about it. One afternoon 1 year ago, at a singular moment, all had transformed, and notwithstanding everything, the challenges and all the agony I would not endure, alter an aspect, as that moment had brought me to this point. Amazing love that beyond all expectations. As I saw Olivia, I perceived the same affection mirrored in her gaze was evident to me, that we would confront whatever followed. Concurrently,